Hi, fam. Another tool that we can use as we are processing our emotions and working toward emotional health is a process of learning to notice, name, and sit with our emotions instead of pushing them away or just spewing them everywhere, to really process them within ourselves, prayerfully sitting with them before God. The first step in this process is noticing them. It's noticing when we have an emotion stirring up in us, and we can get better and better as we experience it, as we practice, noticing where we're feeling emotion in our body. You might feel fear as a prickle up the back of your neck. You might feel anxiety or worry in tension in your shoulders. You might fear anger in your throat closing up or your chest getting tight. You might feel sadness as an ache in your chest or a hole in your gut. You may experience a prickle of tears in your sinus cavities when you're starting to feel sad. So get to know your body and where you feel emotions, and get to know an emotional vocabulary, because it helps us to name our emotions with specificity. The more specific we can be, the more we can nail down and understand what we're feeling. If you look at Plutchik's theory of 8 primary emotions, which I'm pulling this chart out of The Wisdom of Your Heart by Mark Alan Shelsky, some of the core emotions we might feel are anger. We feel anger when we're violated or obstructed. We feel fear when we're threatened. We feel anticipation when we're exploring new terrain. We feel surprise when we are encountering the unexpected. We feel joy when we experience gain, and we feel sadness when we experience loss. We feel trust when we're experiencing acceptance and inclusion, and we feel disgust when we're experiencing contamination of some kind. And emotions have degrees of intensity as well. I don't know if you can see this chart very well, but the emotions blossom out in different levels of intensity. So we may feel apprehensive, we may feel fear, we may feel terror. It's all fear because we're being threatened, but it has different degrees of severity. We may feel pensiveness, or we may feel sadness, or we may feel deep grief, depending on the severity of the loss that we're experiencing. We may feel serenity, joy, or ecstasy, depending on the gain that we've experienced, the happiness that we're having. So name your emotions as specifically as you can. That's the first step of noticing them and naming them. And then this is the hard part. Some emotions are comfortable and some emotions are uncomfortable. Joy feels amazing. Trust and love and surprise, if it's a good surprise, feel incredible. We love those. Sometimes we seek out those experiences and feeling those emotions. There are other emotions that are uncomfortable. Sadness, anger, and fear, jealousy, disgust. Those are not pleasant sensations in our body. The emotions are not negative, they're not wrong, they're not bad. They're telling us important things about what's going on inside of us, but they do not always feel good. In fact, they don't really ever feel good to experience them. So getting used to sitting with them is hard but necessary, so we don't suppress or ignore our emotions. I talked earlier about the jar on the shelf. If we pull that jar back out and we're ready to process our emotions, one way we do that is naming it, examining it, and sitting with it. Opening up the jar and looking at what's inside, letting it pour out and flow through us. Sitting with them, for me, I like to be in a comfortable place where I won't be interrupted. If I'm physically comfortable, it helps me deal with the emotional discomfort. And naming it, and then just letting it well up in your body, feeling the physical and spiritual and soul deep sensations of that emotion. Crying if that's what comes out, screaming into a pillow if that's what comes out, like letting it out, letting it flow through us. The important thing to remember is that it's not going to last forever. Every emotional expression will have a beginning and an end. So sit with it, let it course through you, let it run its course, and then let it dissipate. And if you can persist with experiencing it, it will get better. And then you'll feel the sadness lift or the fear go away or the anger. Eventually you'll be able to let it go. And it may take multiple sessions of dealing with this. If there's a painful experience you've been through that brings up a lot of emotions, it may take you multiple times it could even take you years to continue dealing with those emotions. It might help to deal with them one at a time. If a situation has made you both sad and angry, maybe pick one. Today I'm going to sit with the sadness of that. Tomorrow I'm going to sit with the anger of it. It's not always such a clear process. It's probably a lot more messy than I've described it. But you can get used to doing this for yourself. It's a great way to take care of yourself. And remember that Jesus will sit with you by the Holy Spirit. The Spirit will be present with you. Invite the Holy Spirit into healing those emotions. We know that God is our comforter and that Jesus experienced these emotions too, and he knows what it feels like to get through them. So the Holy Spirit will bring comfort to you as you're processing those uncomfortable emotions. You can also ask your emotion what it's trying to tell you. What truth is it telling you about what's going on inside of you? Now, your emotion is always true because it tells you what you're thinking and what you're experiencing, but your thinking might be wrong. So you may think that a coworker was gossiping about you and that really hurts you and you're processing it and you're very angry and you're very sad. But then you find out that your thinking was wrong. It turns out your colleague wasn't gossiping about you. You misunderstood something that happened. Well, your thinking was wrong. So the emotion was true. You were hurt because you thought that someone hurt you, but it didn't actually happen that way. So sometimes correcting our thinking can then inform our emotions, and it actually can help lift a difficult emotional situation. So ask what it wants to tell you about what you value, about what's going on inside of you, about what you've lost or gained, or what feels threatened in you. And then you can seek to solve the situations that your emotions are telling you about. So I hope that that helps you process those emotions when you take that jar off the shelf when you're ready to sit with your emotions. And I hope that you can grow to be more emotionally and spiritually healthy, just like Jesus.